Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the MitsuTimes podcast, a very special episode. Mr. Luis from 3SX, he is the owner, and 3SX is a pillar of the 3000 GT and stealth community. How are you today, sir?
Hey, Josh. How are you? It's really good to talk to you today. Excited, happy to be here on your podcast today, and appreciate you making time to talk to us and just get the scoop on what we're doing and what we're looking to do here at 3SX.
Always glad to have you guys. I mean, you can't, you would be almost impossible task would be to go out into the country and find a 3000 GT that doesn't have some type of 3SX part or some type of influence from 3SX. So you guys are certainly, when I think of the platform, I think of 3SX. So it's certainly an honor to have you as a sponsor on MitsuTimes and as a guest here today.
Wonderful. Again, thanks for the invite and having us.
Absolutely. Well, Luis, it's been a while since we last talked with 3SX. I think 2023 was the last episode. What's kind of new in the 3SX world?
Yeah, so I think maybe a handful of things, really a ton of things, but maybe a handful would be like the most, I guess, high level big picture. So Steve Burrows, who started the platform really in 1999 and owned it and built it out for 25 years, decided to retire a little over 2 years ago. And so I came over and took over basically he was ready to slow down but really just knew he had built out something that was hopefully and I think enduring and exciting. And so we were able to continue that, I guess, the 3SX offerings and business and platform and when I took over, and we've started continuing to invest in the business, and in the last 2 years we've been doing a lot with the platform, just modernizing not only the things that we've been offering for the last, call it 20-25 years, but also just revamping some of the things that we've had, and then also adding new products over time. I think Steve had done a lot of the aftermarket things or products that, because OEM products had honestly rolled out or rolled off, and obviously as the platform start producing any new vehicles, we needed to have refreshed parts and newer parts. And I think a chunk of what we're doing is that. But I think on the back of that too, after COVID, Steve has slowed down on offering service. It's just it obviously COVID was its own whole thing, but the performance part of our business had kind of gone quiet for a little bit, and I think we've definitely successfully revived that. So I'm really proud to say, since I've been around and in partnership with my general manager Daniel, we've gotten about 20 cars or so that were sitting for 1 or more years back on the road, and it's just exciting to see the platform getting revived that way.
For sure. And the platform certainly needs a revival, and it's good to hear that those cars that have been, kind of put on a shelf for a while are getting back out there. I love that. Well, Luis, for listeners who may be hearing about 3SX for the first time somehow, maybe they're just not, 3SX, or I'm sorry, 3000 GT or Stealth, platform guys. Give us the quick backstory on how the company got started.
Yes, 28 years ago, our founder, Steve Burrows, had owned a 3000 GT, and he liked what the cars, just the platform itself, what the capability of the cars were, and all the engineering that went into them. Because as you may remember, and everyone else in the platform knows, these cars were over-engineered for a car that was developed 36 years ago. No, so a lot of that engineering and product ingenuity was exciting to him. And I think he, over the years, wanted to innovate some of the things that other platforms were bringing into their own platforms and bringing into the 3000 stealth community. And so he built out the company that way, first offering just products that would enhance performance, but then ultimately would help your car either continuing to be on the road, but also perform like a more modern car. And that's the genesis of the 3SX platform. So he did it very successfully for 25 years, scaled it significantly. We've had thousands of customers buy from us, come bring their cards, so we get them just situated whenever there's an issue with their cards. And we're very proud of the legacy that Steve had built, and we're looking to continue that into the future. I think one thing that the 3000 Stealth community hasn't seen is just a lot of the resale car price appreciation, and I think we're seeing that more recently. I mean, we at 3SX now own about 30 or so 3000 or GT or Stealth vehicles that we're kind of like reconditioning and having bring back to the market so folks can continue to get excited and get back into the platform. So it's been pretty much an institution in the industry and in the platform for the last, call it, 28 years or so.
Yeah, no doubt. There's certainly no arguing that. Well, Luis, looking back over all those years, like you said, 27, 28 years ago, what's the one thing that you're most proud of with 3SX?
I think continuing to keep the cars on the road. I mean, we have customers who call, and there's a lot of nostalgic value just to a lot of the cars that we have. So half of our customers call and say, hey, I need like a pulley or, like something very de minimis, like a control arm for their car to continue to be able to drive them. But some customers, I would say about half of our customers have a emotional, tie into the car. And they'll call and say, hey, like my grandpa left me this car. It's been sitting for 20 years or 15 years or 5 years. And I love to be able to get this car back and up and running and just, to honor their memory. And I think that's been really rewarding to us. And when a customer calls and says, hey, I have this, car that's been in my family for X, Y, or Z amount of time. Can you guys help us get it back on the road? And I mean, 100% of the time we've been able to do that. Obviously, like there's always ups and downs in the level of how much you can restore a car in terms of like, its ability to be back on the road. But I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, like being able to help our customers and folks who call to get their cars operational and continuing to enjoy what the platform brings to the table.
Well, obviously, over those 27, 28 years, the 3000 GT Stealth community has seen a lot of changes. So what would you say has changed the most from when you first started being involved with this platform?
I think like candidly, like you have like obviously it's a 30 plus year old platform. Folks who used to be in their 20s or 30s, like I am back 30 years ago, are now in their retirement age. So there's that transition period that's going on and happening. And I think there's definitely a new wave of folks who are younger taking over a lot of the project cars and or just like, sometimes people call them like their babies, and continuing to run with the platform and modernizing some of the work that has already been done on these cars for 20, 15 years. And you've definitely seen kind of like the older generation enjoy it, but like as they're nearing retirement, transition that into a fresher, newer, younger generation where it's just there's some continuity. And I think I see it more and more. Like, weirdly enough, one of the things that we spent a lot of time on when we were first thinking about coming through the 3SX platform was, can we continue to get new customers and younger folks? And is that like something that will endure? And it's been surprising to me, and it's a happy surprise that there's folks who are in their 20s and 30s who are just getting into the platform now and just appreciate just the value of what these cards have brought, and just like the continuity and longevity. And then it's the way I see it is like, just these cars don't really, it's like they age so well, they almost don't age, because like if you've obviously appreciated like how these cars look and how they drive, it's a fun car. It ages really well. It's like when I drive my Stealth or 3000 and I have multiple of them, I don't feel like I'm driving a 30-year-old car. I kind of feel like I'm driving a performance car, candidly. So, and I think that's one of the things that the younger generation appreciates, and we continue to see that.
Yeah, I love it. So, Luis, you talked about that this platform is obviously 30 years old or more in some cases. What keeps you motivated to continue to want to support this platform?
So, as a car enthusiast, I think having something that's meaningful for me, where I can continue to support something where I have a mission, but also at the same time, um, obviously be able to make a decent living doing it. It's just very exciting to me, and I think all the techs that we have here and like the staff that we have at 3SX, they're all like really either car enthusiasts or really 3000 GT Stealth enthusiasts. I think half of our staff either owns a 3000 or Stealth, or at some point have owned one, and so just like the community that we have, and just continuing to drive that and move it forward and along, I think it's really exciting to me. Like as a car enthusiast, like not every car, as you might know, like not every car platform has the support from the customers and people who love the cars that they've bought and built over time. And I'll tell you, like for example, like I've been like on some other platforms of being involved, like Corvettes and whatever else. And oftentimes people just want to sell their cars and be done with it. More and more, like if you go on our website, for example, we have customers call and say, I have my car that I want to sell. I'm not on a timeline. I just want to sell it to someone who's not going to part it out. I want to sell it to someone who's going to enjoy the car, continue to build on it and maintain it, because it means a lot to me. And we see a lot of that. And to me, like that's very motivating to continue to do what we're doing.
Yeah. Yep. And that's really motivation enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's exciting, right? Like it's, I think like if like I tell some customers when we have like obviously folks who call us or talk to us, and when I go to like gatherings and whatnot, if this was more about making money and not enjoying what we're doing, I probably would have picked the platform.
Kind of on that same train of thought, I used to get 3000 GT Stealth time slips and updates quite frequently, and then maybe the last 2 or 3 years it's kind of started to trickle down. So in your opinion, where do you think that the 3000 GT and Stealth platforms stand in today's performance world? Are people more building them for racing, or more maybe just building them for having fun?
I think more so for having fun, preserving like the car and continue to enjoy what it has to offer. We do have a good number of customers who try to like enhance the performance of their cars and get it from like call it the stock 200 and change horsepower to call it sub 400 to 600, which we've helped quite a bit of customers do that in the last 1 to 2 years.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, I think most people just want to enjoy driving their cars and cruising down the street and like just enjoying like how it feels. I mean, our cars pull great. But like if you enhance the performance, it's fun to drive. Like I think folks who really want like a crazy performance car that would never break, I mean, they have to navigate into something more modern, because we're talking about very heavy cars or that in order for us to be able to like enhance them or make them just pull faster or drive more aggressively, you have to invest not only a lot of time but a lot of just resources into getting it right. And I think um, if you're looking to be in the platform, I don't think it would be the platform like to try to beat someone else, like driving a GTR or some of the other cars that continue to get releasing to the market with more and more horsepower and stronger engines. That wouldn't be the platform, in my opinion.
With that, kind of being said, are you seeing more like restorations happening since the platform is getting older?
Yeah, so a lot of people just want to restore their cars to be able to drive them and enjoy them. I mean, we've at 3SX have come up with like our own aftermarket, for example, just HVAC systems and compressor systems for like the first generation, so that people could drive their cars and have AC on. I think obviously if you're more of a performance type of person, you don't really care for comfort. But for me, like as I'm getting close to my 40s and obviously enjoying the driving the car, but like to me things like having an AC in my car, in addition to having a car that feels really great when I'm driving and handling good, matters. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that. I mean, we have folks calling us and saying, "Hey, I'd like to be able to have like my car, do what it's supposed to be doing, but I wanted to drive and like have like, for example, weather seals on the doors and everything else, not let wind seep through, and just have the car feel like a more modern car." And I think we're seeing more and more on that. Like, so the restoration side of things has been, I think, more active than we've seen the performance side of things. But some people do want to have their cars be able to perform, but they also want the car to look and feel like a really nice car. And I think balancing the two of those, like we try to do the best we can, but at the end of the day, I think restoration is like where a lot of the folks are focused today.
Yeah, and that can be a very, very thin line.
Yeah. I mean, and to give you a sense, like one of the other things we're doing too, like we've had a lot of folks, because there's also like obviously like the 3000 GT Stealth wasn't like the top tier performance car you could get back in the 90s when the cars were coming out. And I think folks think about the platform that way and want to get into like a car that doesn't have a turbo, for example, setup. And we've like come up with like some non-turbo to turbo conversions to help folks kind of get that feel for a turbo powered car. And we're seeing more and more of that. Like, but at the end of the day, we also want to make sure like people manage their expectations. Like, if you're having a car that's not a 4-wheel drive car, just front wheel drive with like a turbo setup, and it didn't come like that from factory, there's just a lot of adjustments and improvements you have to make, not only to the engine based setup, but the car itself, to make sure it drives to the standard that you're looking to get or have coming from the car.
And then, Luis, what common mistakes are you seeing people make with these cars when it maybe it comes to buying parts or even in the builds?
So the one thing we see like a lot is folks thinking, okay, I'm gonna buy a car and like do like, for example, the engine rebuild myself, and or go like get a car for like on the cheap, right? And then I can like just not only do the labor, but like maybe go to a cheap place to do the engine rebuild and or fix the transmission or like just any setup that I want. And at the end of the day, like these cars are getting older, and if you want quality, you have to go the extra mile to find folks who will provide you. I mean, 306, we're probably like one of the most known folks out there, but there's a couple of other folks too who will do a very good job of telling you, if you get into the platform, you need to invest in making sure that you've done a 60K kit, for example, at X amount of miles, and you need to make sure that you're the way you're driving the car is not aggressive, or there's just a lot of like expectations that don't match reality. And at the end of the day, like if you want to have a really good running car that's fun to drive, you have to invest time and resources into it. And if you're not a car like technician type of guy, you need to have a shop and or someone you can trust that will do the work. I could tell you, like, we've had a lot of people try to call us and say, hey, this is my budget, this is what I want for my car, and we flat out turn them away. We're telling them, hey, like, we had a guy saying, yeah, I want my car to make 800 horsepower. Yep, that's not a thing. So, we can't do that. And at the same time, we said, well, look, if you want to do 500 to 600 horsepower, we can help you, but you need to spend X amount of money, and you need to be patient with us, because we work with what we believe are the best transmission rebuilders out there, and engine just rebuilding companies too. Some of them work, for example, with NASCAR and some of the other large just racing institutions in the world. And it's a queue, and it takes time, it takes patience, it takes just resources and know-how. Like, for example, another thing that people don't really think about is, if you want your car to perform like a modern car, you need to upgrade your computer. For example, like we have a great tuner that we partner with, and he's a huge proponent of the Holtec platform. And I don't think we've had one customer transition from the stock, ECU or computer system in their car to the Holtec platform that hasn't been happy. You just could do so many modifications to the car. Like, it feels like you're driving a car that's, instead of 30 years old, but like 5-10 years old. So those are some of the mistakes that we see. And then the one last thing I would say, and that's my recommendation from personal experience, don't believe what people tell you when you see like the car on Facebook Marketplace in terms of like the list of things they've done to the car. Maybe they did do those things, but it could have been a couple of years ago. They could have let the car sit. And then when you drive the car, all those fluids might have been sitting for a long time and settling in the different compartments of the car. And you shouldn't expect the car to perform like it did 5 years ago, and if it's been sitting for a while. So we to give you an example, every time we get a car that's someone says, "Hey, I need you to do like a cover to cover inspection of the car, make sure it's good and everything else." First thing we do is like we take out the oil filter and cut it open to make sure there hasn't been any issues in the engine bay. And 9 times out of 10, when someone does that and it's been a sitting car, there's either rot knock or metal shavings in the oil filter. So it's always very like humbling to see that happens, and folks just, we have to educate them, and they get frustrated with us, but at the end of the day, like it's a pride thing for us. Like we're not going to let someone drive a car that's not either safe to drive and or to the standards that the customers are expecting from us.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing you want is go back out on the road and blow it right up again. So let's talk about, one of the problems. I'm a big DSM guy, Luis, and one of the problems we have is parts availability, like OEM parts and small things mostly that maybe break over time, or maybe people throw out, and now that's hard to get. So has parts availability or sourcing become difficult for the 3S over all these years?
Yeah. So what I would say that the one thing is like obviously like as the platform has gotten older, just OEM replacement parts, it's just become really, really limited and hard to get. Like I think we do a good job of reaching out to dealers who have been around for a long time and or repair shops that are affiliated with Mitsubishi and say, hey, if you have anything that has to do with the 3000 or Stealth type of engine and or infrastructure, we would love to buy that off of you so we have it in stock, because obviously we're heavily invested in the platform. This is all we do. But on the OEM side, a lot of it has become increasingly less and less available. Like crankshafts, for example, we have a tough time trying to, source. And anything like, I mean, I've mentioned weather seals before, and a lot of the other components of the car that in a more modern platform you'll find, because those cars are still in either operation or they're not, 3 decades old. It's easier to find. For us, we're always trying to like get as much as we can of what's left of the OEM. There's not that much that gets manufactured today, because ultimately when we think about it, like Mitsubishi's not focused on turning a profit for this platform, right? From this platform, like I think it's diminishing returns for them. But at the end of the day, what we try to do is, if we know there's stuff that's not available, and we will try to work with either local and or folks in the United States, and if not internationally, to either rebuild a lot of the parts that are hard to find as much as we can, and or to remanufacture them. I mean, at that point, obviously, it's aftermarket, and the quality may not be exactly what you would get from OEM, but we've noticed like a lot of uptake from folks like saying, you know what, like I can't get the OEM part anymore. I don't want to use part. I'll just get something that's aftermarket, and if you guys think the reliability will be there, we're just going to invest the resources into getting it so that my car's running the way I want it to run. But I mean, like anything else, like with older platforms, I think car manufacturers obviously make their most money on the newer cars, and that maintenance and repair side of the trade, like it over time it just fades, and we've observed that with this platform. I don't think it's exclusive to any one platform.
Now, it seems like 3SX makes, parts for every square inch of the 3000 GT and Stealth. Is there any part of the car that you think is still kind of underdeveloped?
Well, that's a good question. I think, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, body components, for example, we're always trying to figure it out. What's the best cost-effective? Because at the end of the day, like, we have a mission. We want to keep these cars on the road, but we also need to be able to turn a profit. And there's some parts where like weather seals, like coming back to that, we like invested a ton of time and resources into just getting our mold situated, and like the first batch of that, and getting that to the market has been really complicated, because ultimately we're not going to sell something to customers where the fitment's not right, and it's just it's difficult to continue to think about like how do you modernize and offer something that's valuable to folks that they want, versus stuff that will really be very profitable, and sometimes we have to make that trade, and we do it pretty frequently. And I mean, there's things, for example, like we've had customers call and say, hey, is there something you can do for like, I mean, you will laugh at this, but like just clips, to make sure like I don't know, my door closes properly, or little things, and we do 3D printing, and we do things like to make sure like the fitment's correct, but it there's always something that we can spend time on. Like for example, there's like a relay that uh, if you know a little bit about like what the engine configuration looks like, we just came across like an issue where folks have been using a bypass for like one of our like relays in the engine, so that they don't have to go through like or have the car idle weird. And we just realized there's like some aftermarket relays that we can actually configure at home, like internally when it comes here, set it up so that and make it appropriate like for the card fitment, and offer it to the market. And little things like that, like we're always discovering new things, and it's just exciting to see it. But I mean, there's always something. It's really the answer, and I think that's the best answer I can give you. Like there's always, I can't really pinpoint one thing. Like for example, tachometer rebuilds. Like for the longest time, we were trying to like solder some of the panels so that the tachometers will work properly.
Yeah.
And we continued to have issues for a long time, and then eventually, like we were working with some of the folks who have been in the platform for a long time. They gave us some ideas, and that's the other thing. Like some of them have already retired, so it was hard to find like the wealth of knowledge to get us there. And tachometer rebuild, for example, it was something that we kind of like had stopped offering, and now we offer it again. Another thing is like the retractable antennas, like for some of the earlier models. We have stopped offering them because we couldn't find them. And then we came across a company that had a bunch of them in stock, and they were like, you know what, like we'll give them to you for X amount of money, and we just bought their entire inventory because we knew we won't sell it overnight, but it's just something that we're happy to offer because some people want their cars to be as close to stock as possible, and it's just exciting for us to be able to have that in stock.
Yeah, no doubt. And for every square inch to be correct like it was from the factory, I love things like that.
Yeah. We do like right now we have a 1999 green 3000 GT VR4 with I think it's 90% stock, and we're working to help him fix just some of the shifting. I think there might be something wrong with either the transmission or something around the configuration of the transmission or something within the housing. But like it's one of those things, right? Like the car's here, it's exciting to figure it out, and we think we can get it right for the customer. But at the end of the day, like it takes a lot of research and development to figure it out. Can we get it back to its stock the way you want it, so the car preserves its value? Or can we come up with an aftermarket fix so that you can enjoy the car, but at the end of the day, it preserves values for when you're ready to move on from it, you can sell it for a premium amount of dollars.
Don't lose any money on it.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, our last episode, like I said, was around 2023. What new products or services has 3SX started introducing since then?
Yeah, so since 2023, as you might remember, like, during COVID, we shut down pretty much our service offering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously COVID was a big thing, but at the end of the day, also too, our techs were like on the older side, and like some of them retired, some of them moved on to other platforms, wanted to do something else. So since then, since I've been around at least, we've brought on like some younger folks who have pretty quickly learned the ins and outs of the platform, and we're offering like full service. So one of the things we do now, like if you either want to do something as simple as replacing a window regulator, all the way to getting your car to do, from call it 300 or 290 or whatever horsepower stock to 600 horsepower, we can help you get there. And I think that's something that we hadn't been doing for a long time. We're coming up with new products, for example, for not all performance, or for example, like I think there's like a rim configuration that used to be available 15, 20 years ago. And I think it's 18-inch chrome rims. And we're working now with an overseas provider to just offer that for folks who want that, OEM chrome type, look for their cars. Some of the other things we've done is just revamping some of the electrical systems so the car's a little bit more modernized, try to fix some of the wiring within the car. So we're always trying to come up with new ideas. We're leveraging a lot like the 3D printing capabilities that we've developed over the last couple of years, just to offer like a lot of the more plastic non-engine components, so folks have access to some of the things that make the car feel newer, but at the same time, it's a 30-year-old car with like a newer thing in it without you having to like go break the bank to do it. And I think that's one of the things we're focused on as well.
Well, are there any more upcoming products maybe that are in development that you maybe want to put out a little teaser on?
Yeah, so a few of the things we're trying to do, like we have. I mean, there's always something that we're kind of like doing R&D on. We have partnerships with either carbon fiber or like fiberglass uh, folks who are trying to help us either come up with parts that will be, I guess, lower weight or smaller weight, so the car feels better. Like fenders, for example, we've been doing R&D on those for a while, and trying to find the right folks to provide us with that has been tough, but we want to do it. I think the company we used to partner with for short shifters, I think, has stopped doing that. So we're trying to figure out what's the next step on like the short shifter offering. I personally have cars with a normal, like obviously like shifting mechanism, but then I do have a car with like where we had upgraded to the short shifter, and I enjoy it. But I actually like more traditional, stock type shifting configuration. So there's always something that we're working on, but those are some of the more near term things that we're trying to develop. Recently, for example, we used to have a front bumper conversion from the first generation to the 1999 conversion, and we just brought that back on. So a lot of things too is we're trying to figure out what were things that people love having before to set up their own configuration of their cars, either from an engine perspective or from a body perspective, and just making that available again for folks who want to continue to get that and modify their cars accordingly.
And then you kind of talked about it already, Luis. You guys talk about what parts need development and stuff. What goes into deciding whether or not a new product is worth developing for such a niche, small, platform?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think one thing that maybe people don't know, but like we have obviously competitors and folks who are in the market trying, having offerings similar to what we have. We don't consider them as like, cutthroat. We don't talk to them. I think it's more of a let's be friendly competitors and see what we can do to continue to have the platform move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we'll talk to someone who would say, hey, I think developing X, like an ashtray, for example, would be a great idea, but I don't have the time or resources, or really the I guess the connections to do it. And oftentimes we get our ideas from folks who are either competing with us and or trying to do something for their own particular cars, and they give us the ideas and suggest we do it, and we do it. Like, to give you an example, there was a small component, and now it escapes me what it was, but we had a customer call about a Mitsubishi Montero, if you know what those are.
Oh yeah.
And he needed like an engine component for it, and it turns out that I think it was a bracket, which obviously is a little thing, but he was like, hey, I just bought the bracket from you guys, and it fit perfectly for my Montero, and I think you guys should offer it for the Montero. But it turns out we had discontinued the bracket because you couldn't find it anywhere, and we just didn't sell much of it. And it was only like, took us probably like some hours of R&D to continue to offer it, and it's been a decent selling product, for example. So there's just a lot of ideas that come that way. Oftentimes we'll do like brainstorming sessions like within the team. Like, for example, I obviously, like I mentioned, I have multiple of the cars myself, and when I'm driving them, I always tell the guys like, hey, I feel like, having an AC, like I'm getting older, like having AC plus having my car perform well matters to me. Okay, let's develop or come up with newer compressors, for example, and or HVAC lines, and or a service to go change the cars from automatic transmissions to manual transmissions, because it's harder to find and also afford for some folks, like automatic transmissions. And sometimes we'll do surveys too online when we can. But I think a big value proposition for what 3SX does is offering that knowledge and just like know-how for the platform for really free. We do a lot of brainstorming sessions, and like I said, at least half of the guys here, including myself, own one or two or more of the cars, and we're always coming up with ideas like what are some things that we wish we had in our own car that we think could work, and then we'll like try to do online surveys and or email marketing and reach out to folks and ask, this is something that you would be interested in, and if we get enough critical mass, we offer it for the community.
The way kind of it one idea kind of goes out to a couple different people and then bounce it around and perfect it. I like that. And Louise, we kind of talked about customer demands kind of changing from maybe more performance builds to more restoration, more kind of clean car show kind of builds. Have you seen like your plans to make these parts kind of also change and shift over time also, instead of maybe focusing more towards performance stuff, we're focusing more towards just getting a car back out on the road, the parts that are kind of missing there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think that's true for other platforms. I have some friends who really spending a lot of their time on other platforms that are like about the same age, like Miatas and whatnot, Mitsubishi, Honda's 2000s, for example, and it's kind of like the same trend where 10, 15, 20 years ago you could get like a newer car and revamp the engine to perform better and just be faster, pull stronger, could take on a lot more beating, if you will, to now there's a lot more focus on restoring the cars and just enjoy them for what they are, and like more cruising. We still do have a good base of performance focused folks who like want to continue to invest in their cars to make them perform strongly. But I would say like you could definitely see a shift into like in folks, even like some folks who used to be focused on performance or are now like in their 40s, 50s, or 60s. They had a high performing car, and I was like, well, you know what? Like I actually like for the car to be closer to stock and or more reliable, so I could drive it with my wife to church on Sundays, for example.
For sure. As you get older, your priorities change.
Yes.
Well, Louise, in your opinion, what feedback do you hear from customers that people are surprised about a particular part or a particular service that you guys offer?
I think like the service, like getting the cars back on the road. I think one of the focuses of Daniel, who you know now, and myself have been, what can we do to meet the demands of the community and get to know what people are looking to do. And I think a lot of folks, there's a big chunk of our customer base who it's mostly about help us get my car back on the road. But I think there's also a part of my car's running, but it's not running great. What can you do to help us get the car running great? And we've come up with some solutions. For example, like I mentioned, the tuner that we work with, who we partner with, has come up with some cool ideas. Like let's use a Haltech product, for example, to adjust some of the things out of from the car that we can either not find parts for, and or that you can delete safely and complying with the EPA regulations, although that's always changing, so that you can have a good running car that you can enjoy. Then you don't have any issues when you go register every year and then get it inspected. So those are some of the things that we have time on and just doing generally.
And then, in your opinion, obviously you talk to a lot of customers who've installed 3SX parts or had 3SX service. What would you say is sometimes the most overlooked upgrade or overlooked part for either a restoration or a street driven car?
Yeah, I mean, like very simply, and we've just had like 3 customers back to back doing that. We've had some customers like complain about like their idle, like how the car was idling like in standstill, and or when it was just like they were like giving it some throttle. And the throttle bodies on these cars have gotten more and more weather over time. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you have a company or if you rebuild the throttle body yourself, the flap that lets the kind of like that flips in so that you have more air coming in and like just it working appropriately gets weather over time, and there's like dust and grime that accumulates, and that actually affects how the flap works. And we've had a lot of folks saying, well, I think there's something wrong with the motor, for example, and we'll do a throttle rebuild for them, and or just like clean up the throttle body for them. And sorry, I meant to say throttle body at the beginning, like throttle body rebuild for them, it makes night and day difference. I think oftentimes too, just doing a refresh in your car, like if your car's over 100,000 miles, you could do like what we have. It's a 60K kit, but you could do it at 120,000 miles too. Just doing new seals, new gaskets, your car would just feel a lot better, and you can tell if there's something wrong with the car. Like, I mean, we were, for example, we were doing like piston rings on a customer car like the other day, and like you could tell the difference from like before we pull out the pistons, fix the rims, put them on, and then until when he got it back, and he was like, "Yeah, the car feels great." It's like, well, yeah, like it's just basic wear and tear that the motor takes a lot. The motor takes a lot of beating, so you need to make sure you're always on top of it, especially when it's like a higher mileage type of car.
Yeah, I feel like anytime I see one of these cars out on marketplace, it's always the maintenance that was neglected that kind of led to it being on marketplace.
Yeah, yeah. I think like some people get frustrated because like I think it does take a level of sophistication to be able to do the work, and I think some people buy the car as a project car and realize, there's a lot more to it than just like replacing some parts. I think you also have to make sure you understand what the original configuration of the car was
Mhm.
versus when over time, when the wear and tear of the components of the car, like, the head, the engine, the piston, like the pistons and like the engine, like there's a lot of things that over time take a lot of beating, and then you need to be able to continue to restore those and bring them back to where the car will perform to the level that you want it to perform. But you need to refresh it because like it's like anything else, like nothing's permanent. Things eventually like suffer a lot of deterioration over time, especially if you drive your car hard. Like for example, like when I step on my car and I'm doing, I don't do this all the time, but sometimes I don't, like 90, 100 miles an hour, right? Like it's fun to do it, but you know that your car's taking a lot more beating than if you're driving it at a 50 to 60-mile range,
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yep, you can kind of feel it, kind of tensing up.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just the nature of the beast.
Well, kind of while we're on that same train of thought, are there any like products or services that you wish existed for the platform that nobody's been able to do that maybe 3SX just doesn't have the manpower or the tooling or something like that to do?
Yeah, I would say like remote diagnosing. Like, so if you have like one of the cars that we, focus on and call and say, hey, my car's idling weird and or it's shifting weird. Like, I wish there was some sort of like technology or like, because we go a lot by experience and or feel. Because there's no like machine you could put into the car to give you like some very basics, for example.
Right.
Like, and I wish there were some technology tools we can use to do that remotely. Because we have customers call us every week, and pretty much every day, and say, "Hey, this is what's wrong with my car. What do you think it could be?" And it's like we go off of experience. I mean, it's like there's no like we don't have like a checkbox of like if it's this. No, it's not that. Okay, so it's next. You kind of like move down a list.
Right.
There's no checklist that exists, and I think like that's harder to continue to teach to the younger folks. Like we have some of the younger techs that we've hired over time, and they'll be like, "Well, we have to take the whole engine apart." It's like, no, 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 no. Like, hold on. Like, you could just look at the throttle body first, and or let's just take the heads off and see what's going on that part of the. Like there's a lot of things you can do to troubleshoot before you get to the nitty gritty of like taking the whole engine apart. And I wish there was some more nosing tool and or technology we could use to do that. It will help a lot of our customers, especially when they're calling up like ask about a part. I mean, can tell you how many times like we've had a customer say, "Hey, like my transmission's not working," and then we start asking them about some of the components, what noise is it making, and give you the like, and you're like, "Oh wait, all right, so is it a grinding noise or more like a rubbing noise?" Like, and you go like we could spend an hour with a customer trying to diagnose a car, and there's just no easy way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Louise, we're going to get on my favorite subject now, the shop race cars. They obviously were at one point in time record holding cars. The front wheel drive one still is. The last time we talked with 3SX, it was kind of, we're going to get them out for our open house and maybe start getting them out into the tracks or something like that. What's the current status of the fleet now?
Yeah, so we do have both our race car and drag cars here. They have their engines in. I think a big thing, and we've talked to a few folks who are like staples in the community about wanting to drive our cars, be our drivers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like we want to make sure we have something safe but at the same time that will be fun to drive, where we know we can either come close to meeting Chris's record and or beating it. And one of the things we're trying to do is like not only like get those cars ready for prime time, but at the same time, like for example, we just bought a GTO that's non-turbo all-wheel drive, and we're thinking, okay, so if we're going to rehab some of the two cars that we have that are more show cars, as we call them, do we do it with the GTO as well? The answer is yes, but then at the same time, like, so who do we go who to be our race car driver? You know, because you also, I think people underestimate, like, the car could be a perfect car, but if you don't have a skilled driver, you know, to handle and take the curves and like, you know, come to a stopping point and acceleration points at the right time, you're never going to beat the records, you know, and I think that's a focus of us. I think we're drinking from a fire hose, to be honest. Like, I think since we opened our service shop, we're like we're trying to. People call and we turn people away all the time, and sometimes we'll take on something and people get frustrated because we're trying to say, hey, we do. There's a huge lead time because at the end of the day, we stand by our work. So if you bring something to us, like a car to us, and say, hey, this is my expectations,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go above and beyond to try to get what you need done for you. But at the end of the day, like there's a resource constraint, and I think I want to make sure like our technicians who are working on our service offering um, are the ones who we will be working on our race cars, because ultimately they'll be the ones who will take with us to continue to get the cars running. But yes, it's in the plans. I think we're a little bit behind in terms of like being able to do that, and it's more so because we have like, I mean, if I go down the list, 20 priorities of like people calling us about parts that they want or products that they want and or offerings and or you know, like, can we bring our car to you guys to diagnose? And it's kind of like always there's the fun part of the racing side of things, beating the records, but at the same time also making sure that you're supporting the community the right way. And so that's a struggle that we're kind of like working our way towards, if that makes sense.
Customer cars always have to be the priority.
Yeah, we try. I mean, sometimes like they'll see us like working on, you know, one of the shop cars, and we're like, "Where's my car?" So, well, you know, like we don't have the part, which, you know, 100% of the time is true. Like sometimes we kind of have to like source something either from Japan and or one of our like turbos, for example. If we're partnering with like this great company that helps us like improve just the quality of the turbos we're offering, and there's a lead time, like, because they have to get in balance. They have to go, you know, test them like on a machine that will make sure there's no leakage and no issues, like when, you know, the air or the oil is going through it. So there's just a lot that goes to it. So when people see their car sitting, it's like, well, are you not looking? It's like, well, no, like we actually, you know, got everything we need to do and are situated, but at the end of the day, we're waiting on someone who knows what they're doing in terms of like the turbo development and or a reliability to get what you need so the car's working to your standards.
Yeah. No, I mean that's definitely fair. Even though you want to go out and go racing and have fun, the customer's the one that keep the lights on and the bills paid.
That's right.
So has the goals or directions with those cars changed, you know, since we last spoke in 2023?
Nope, I think it's the same. I think if anything, we just want to add another car to the platform. Like I mentioned, the GTO that we have.
Yeah.
So the customer we bought it from was someone like who just called us one day. I was like, "Hey, I have this GTO that I, you know, imported from Japan. Um, I don't want to sell it to someone who will part it out. I would like to sell it to someone who I know would do something with it." And obviously, like we jumped at the opportunity, and he's already made some engine improvements, higher performance turbos, and just some of the things that will make the car perform better. But at the end of the day, like we have to go through the entire engine bay and or suspension system and brakes and whatnot to make sure the car's performing, you know, to the standards that we've set. So I would say, if anything, we've just set bigger goals, and it's just getting, you know, meeting the goals. It's just getting that situated. I think it's the big, I guess, elephant in front of us to tackle.
For sure. That's a big elephant too. Those cars are very special.
Yes.
Well, of those two cars and the you know, the GTO, which build like excites you personally the most, Luis?
Candidly, the GTO, because I've driven it. It's like the car that we took it to BRG last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't drive it down to tail myself, but I did have one of our guys drive it and just ride in it with him, and it was so cool. Like, it's just, I don't know if you've ever driven in like in a right-hand drive car where you're like sitting where you're supposed to have any control and you're just like, just holding on for your life. And it was so cool. I think the GTO is really exciting to me. If anything, like the drag car on the back of that one, and then obviously like the race car as well.
What would you say, Louise, is the biggest challenge in making these high horsepower 3000 GTs reliable?
Reality of it is, it's an older platform that you've built that has been built a long time ago, and it's a heavier body. So if you want the car to be reliable and like where the engine is not pulling on, like taking on all the stress of making the car go fast and pull quickly, you need to also revamp some of the body, which is why we've done some of the carbon fiber or fiberglass components like the fenders and the hoods and whatnot. And I think that's a big component to it, because you're trying to have an engine be stronger and faster, but also it is pulling on a lot of weight. And I think reducing that amount of weight so that the power can actually be effective, it's a huge challenge. I think the other thing is like like I mentioned, the Holtec, the newer computers in the car, just setting the computer right so that the engine works in tune with the computer. I don't think I've ever seen a performance car be 100% great in terms of like, there's something that's going to have to give eventually, because you're taking a 30-year-old heavy car to sometimes, increase horsepower by 50, 75 to 100% in some cases, and expect it to perform like, a Bugatti today. Like, it's like, if you think about like the weight of a Bugatti today versus a 3000 GT, like we're talking night and day. So I think the expectation has to be tempered. Like, there's a customer that we have that keeps breaking his car. Like, we've probably had it in the shop in the last 2 years 4 times. And we built his motor for him. It's exciting, but when he steps on the car, inevitably, very frequently, something will break. And it's still like the smallest thing, right? But like, as someone who is very in tune with how the car should drive and perform, he wants it to be top shape. And I think that frustration is always there. And then we always try to like explain to people, like, you're modernizing a 30-year-old car, unless you go the full 9 and replace all the things that will make the car like a modern car to meet the horsepower that you're trying to make. Something is going to break. I mean, and we have, I think if you go on our website, you see we have all these delete kits, like the real weird steering and like the ABS system and all these things that end up becoming a nuisance over time. Just, you can't really make work 100% for an older car all the time. That's a big frustration that we see with our customers.
So, but Louise, we talked about, having the Haltech and the, modern turbo technology and, obviously modern wiring is a lot better. Do you think that the modern technology and tuning has made this platform easier to build than it used to be back in the day when, you pretty much just had to cut the car up and hope for the best?
I would say like, that's a tricky question. I think, I would say, having someone who's competent will always beat any technology and or product that you have that will help you get there. So when I first came to the 3SX platform, like 3SX, and then trying to figure out the offerings, we were working with a tuner who he was just less than optimal, because I think he wasn't as in tune with the newer technology. So you almost have to always have that mentality of thinking, how do we innovate while continuing to maintain reliability? And I think that's always been a challenge as I've been here. But we've seen that improve, at least in the last maybe 6 to 12 months. But at the same time, like, it's always hard because it's an older car. Like, people can say, hey, can my car make 1,000 horsepower? It's like, you can make it the one time you do a pull, but it'll break. Or like, we'll put it on the dyno for you and try to get it as close as we can. If you're expecting 1,000 horsepower out of a car that's 30 years old with a lot of weight and older technology, then you're probably delusional.
Yep. Sadly, a lot of people fall into that trap, though, huh?
Yes. We've had a lot of customers who blow their motors and then come to us like, hey, like, this shop did me dirty and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, look, did you communicate your expectations? Yes. Did they tell you what they could do? Yes. but we were hoping things would be better. It's like, well, that's not how it works. Like, they told you what they could do, and you were expecting better, and it's still what they told you would happen happened. You need to be more realistic.
Well, Louise, I think it's no secret that the 3000 GT community is crucial to the success of all the people that we've seen, race these cars over the years. So I want to talk about how important the community has been to the survival of these cars and the market.
I mean, it's you can really even put like essential. I would put him. So I've been like going to some of the car meets throughout the country. Like I've been to there's a Maryland a Northeastern gathering that I went to last year. This year I couldn't make it. Just some like personal issues, but I've been going to BRG now for 2 years, and just like talking to folks who one are supportive of the platform, or two just give us good ideas. It's just crucial. I mean, like if it was just like a car where people just didn't care, and you're just like, when you buy a car from someone that just want to get rid of it because like this is it, as opposed to someone who wants to make sure the car goes to someone who will continue the legacy and or what they've invested into the car. Because let's be honest, like if you're a car guy, I mean, like I am, and a lot of the other folks who are here at the shop with me are, we've invested 2 to 3 times what our cars are worth into the car, and we're never going to get that out of it, right? But if you want to buy the car from me, I like for you to enjoy the car, and I'll be super transparent. Like, hey, I spent X amount of money on the car on all these upgrades, and I'm selling it to you for whatever, like compared to like what I've invested into it, pennies on the dollar. But it matters to me that you're just not going to get it to part it out and not enjoy it. And I think a lot of the communities like that. We've definitely at 3SX have bought cars. I mean, we've bought like a VR4 Spider from a guy who had owned it for like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I've been holding on to it. I'm waiting to sell it to the right people. I kind of wanted to sell it now. But if the right folks didn't come along who wanted to buy it and really were telling me the truth that they weren't going to part it out because of this car's parts, I wasn't going to sell it. Same thing with the GTO. Same thing. Like, I mean, we right now at the shop have about 30 cars or so that we've bought over the years. And our hope is to get as many of them operational and or available for folks to buy and enjoy as we can.
Well, Louise, we talked a lot about as the cars get older, the owners get older. Have you noticed younger enthusiasts kind of have an interest in the platform and getting into these cars?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that there's definitely a renewed enthusiasm for the platform from younger folks. I mean, so we track obviously like our customer base on a day, in and day out basis, and then on a weekly and then monthly basis. And about 60% of our customers are folks who have been in the platform for years. And then the rest has been folks who have been in the platform for less than 5 years. So, and a lot of them are younger guys who they realize, look, I want a performance car that I can invest time and money into and get an equivalent amount of, I guess, a reward from doing that. You can't do that like if you buy like a GTR or a Dodge Viper, like one of these like super high flying cars, because it's not accessible to the everyday, American. And I think that the 3000 Stealth community or like platform offers that to folks. I mean, we've helped folks, like we just had a customer today who he just wanted his car to like run good. He wanted to do like some of the exhaust work. He had a very limited budget, and we're like, look, we'll work with you to get it to where you need it to be. I mean, we did like take like we didn't really like seek to maximize profit with that guy, but he was like a 27, 28-year-old guy who was as excited about the platform as maybe Steve, who founded 3SX, was 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Hell yeah, I love to hear that. Well, Louise, one of my favorite things to do is, be on YouTube and watch some videos of people using their 3000 GTs, either road course racing, drag racing, what have you. In your opinion, what role does podcasts like this, YouTube, and social media play in keeping this platform alive as it gets older and older?
I think it's super important. I think personally, like I follow pretty much everything 3S related on YouTube, Facebook. I'm not a big Instagram guy, but I also Instagram stuff too. Because there's always something to learn from people. I mean, there's some folks that race their cars on the daily, like, and there's a few folks like that I've come to know personally who just like try to get the most out of their cars all the time, and to me it's essential. I think we at 3SX have a lot of room to do more of that, like kind of like the social media type thing. But I think right now we're more focusing on the blocking and tackling of let's make sure we have the best, products available to our customers and the best service we can have before we go and like do some of the other stuff that's more fun to us because we know we're supporting the community and it's also a little bit too like self-serving because we get to keep our cars on the road and enjoy them as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, Luis, what's something that people outside the Mitsubishi world maybe misunderstand about this platform?
That's a good question. uh, let's see. I think like I would say something that's actually interesting to me. Like I didn't appreciate getting into the platform when I did some years ago. You come in for the car, you stay for the people.
Yep. It's not the car so much that'll suck you in. It's the fanatics of the platform.
Yeah, it's just like and you meet so many different types of folks and just fun, good people to hang out with and who happen to like what you like in terms of like car performance, whatnot. Like, and it's awesome. I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it since I've joined. So
And Luis, one thing that I'm on a lot of the 3000 GT Stealth Facebook groups. I'm sure you are as well. And it seems like all people on there that there's almost no drama. It's about building each other up, giving advice for the car, but helping each other troubleshoot. In your opinion, is that what makes the 3000 GT Stealth community different from maybe the other Mitsubishi communities or other car communities?
I think so. I think being realistic too. I mean, because I'm also part of some of the Evo communities as well, and just being realistic is a big one. And then two, people being honest with, hey, like for example, we've had cars that have come from like other shops and their dynos where they've gotten them like to understand how much horsepower their cars made was not 100% accurate. Like some people like some dynos like ours treat very hard, and we do that by default and by design because we want to make sure if you come to our like get our car, if we build your engine on your car and you get it on our dyno, we want you to be happy with the performance on our dyno. But when you put it on someone else's, you're going to outperform. 9 times out of 10, that's the case. And I think having that mentality, being humble, and say, you know what, like I'm expecting X, but if I get Y, like I'm gonna be happy. I don't see that like the Evo community, for example. Like I think they're all shooting for like 700, 1,000 horsepower, thinking that that's going to be the case and be constant. Like I guess shop to shop, dyno to dyno. It's just not realistic, and I think that's one of the main things in my opinion.
Yep. I definitely agree with that 100%. Luis, what would you say are the biggest goals for 3SX in moving forward into the next few years?
I think like the number one, like I keep saying to the guys here and everyone I talk to, we want to make sure we keep the cars on the road and that we can continue to offer just free advice. Like, no, I don't think there's anyone in the community you call who, I mean, during business hours, obviously, because if you call me like at night, my wife would probably be getting really mad. But during business hours and offer you free advice to the best that we can to help you with your issue and just your goal. And I think you can't really put a money, like I guess like or a dollar value to that. And to me, like it's more of an altruistic goal, but I think being that go-to platform for the community, it's probably our primary goal. Not probably, it is. And then on top of that, like being able to continue to offer prices for things that are affordable and reliable. And then we have like obviously like folks who we talk to, like, well, this is cheaper on eBay, this is cheaper on here, but yeah, good luck calling eBay to tell them, hey, the part you sold us didn't do what it was supposed to do, and or have an issue, we want our money back, and or we want you to help, fix the problem. We have, and I track this on the daily. We have a 100% success rate in terms of like at a minimum offering our customers something to help them with the issue if it's something that we have caused or that comes from us. And I think there's no one else in the community that does that.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely none that I've heard of.
And the other thing is like, yeah, the customer service side of things. Like I think what's one of the things I'm hardest on all of our guys and myself too. If we're not offering or doing the best we can to help people out, like we either don't belong here and or we're not passionate enough. So we have to check ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's fair. Well, Louise, are there any events or appearances where people can see 3SX, maybe like a booth setup, or is there going to be an open house again this year?
So we're going to be at BRG. The open house is in flux now. I think we want to do a dyno day. The challenge with that is like we want to make sure like the shop is like 100% where we want it to be, and we have so many customer projects at the moment where we're trying to get those out before we can just open up the shop and say, hey, we have all these projects, but at the same time we have capacity to like just do something more for fun, and that's where we're struggling. But I think at a minimum, a subset, if not everyone from the shop, will plan to be at BRG this year, and I would say be on the lookout for a potential. I would call it limited open house because again, like since we have so many customer cars, like we're gonna have to like open up some parts of the shop, but not all of it, to do like a dyno day.
That would be so awesome. I think that would definitely, not only rile up the community, it would be cool to just let people see the, the shop cars and what you guys are doing, stuff like that. So yeah, I hope that comes to fruition.
Yeah. Hopefully we can make it happen.
Well, Louise, what would you still love to accomplish that maybe 3SX still hasn't accomplished over the last 27, 28 years?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think maybe like demystifying, the so one of the things that because again, like I'm on the forums and all that, and I go like on Facebook multiple times a day, every day. Whenever someone's trying to get into the platform, the first thing people would say is like, if you want reliability, don't get into the platform, right? And I would posit or say that's not true. I would think like if you maintain your car and you're driving your car, obviously like if you're being hard on your car, expecting top performance and top boost every time you're driving it, then yeah, that's accurate. But if you're looking to have a car that you can enjoy and drive, and sometimes get on it here and there, as long as you do the maintenance the way it should be done, and you're cognizant of the fact that the car is as old as I am, the saying like it's not a reliable car is not a fair comment. And I think with newer technology, deleting some of the things that were more troublesome 30 years ago, that's become even more true. So I would hope people. I wish folks could understand that and see it. It's just hard to convey it, obviously, because most of the stuff happens in social media.
So, Louise, obviously, the future of 3SX is looking really good. But what does the future of the 3000 GT Stealth platform realistically look like over the next 10 years as these cars continue to get older?
I think the way I see it, and again, like because we have customers like a 20-year-old who wants like to get into the platform, learn how to drive stick for the first time, to an older guy who's like in their 50s to 60s and wants to preserve like a vintage car that hasn't been driven a lot. I think the longevity of the cars, I do, and I've seen just appreciation in value. Like obviously, if your car has some issues and or modifications, it's harder to like ascribe value to that. But if I look like 2 years ago at a car with the exact same amount of miles that I would see today, with not a lot of modifications, you could definitely see the appreciation in value in the vehicles, which is exciting to see because obviously some people like to see. I personally would never have a car as an investment. I want to drive my car and enjoy it. But it's kind of cool to see some folks just reap the benefit of all the investment they've made into their platform and cars. Appreciate, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no doubt. For me, it doesn't get much cooler than that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the 99 we have sitting like right outside my office right now, like that car's like it's a beautiful car. Like it's just, I mean, I look at it like I kind of want to buy that car from the customer. It's exciting.
Good. Well, Louise, let's say that someone listening just picked up a 3000 GT or a Stealth. What's the first thing that they should focus on to be able to get the most out of this car?
I mean, I think truthfully, like any car, right? Like, I mean, it's really like the main two things, right? Like your engine and then your transmission. You got to make sure like that's good. Test it out. And the first thing we look personally like, or we like as a shop, when someone sends us their car, we've had people buy a car from someone else and send us a list of the things the prior owner did. And to the most part, it's true. But there's a lot of variables. Like sometimes the car sits too long. Some of the fluids sit for too long and just like make other things just not work the way they should. And the first thing we do when we get a car is like we take out the oil filter and cut it open to see, okay, has there been any issues with the engine? Have they driven it while it was overheating? Like, have they pushed on the car too much? And then from there, like for a car that's like new to us, we'll do a leak down test. Obviously, we'll take it out for a spin. Most of the time, we'll do it on the dyno first, but just like making sure that before you step on the car and like drive it hard, that the bare minimum is there, and just the basic components. Like for example, just to give you a sense, we were looking at a car the other day and we took the transfer case out and it was missing fluid in the transfer case. And we're like, how's that even possible? The guy said like, the car has been maintained to the T. And so you always have to be careful with what people represent to us because we're all forgetful. We're human. And sometimes like, I don't think people want to deceive as much as they forget. And you'll go and drive the car and drive it hard and without having done some of the bare minimum type things like a 60K kit before you do any of that. And then, your engine blows up or there's some other fundamental issue with the car. And you could have just avoided that if you did your basic car recon before you started driving it more frequently.
Well, Luis, where can people find and follow you on social media if they're not already?
Well 3SX, I think the one thing we're trying to do is be more active. I think social media, I would say it's probably not our strongest suit just because we just don't have like a marketing guru, so to speak, doing that. But what we're trying to do is continue to offer just the best products we can. And when we do like a weekly sale, we have a weekly email that we send out, try to offer things, and then also give tidbits to people. Like the latest thing we're doing is just highlighting the torque spec of the week, for example. And I think that's been fun for some people because sometimes we'll do it and try to use AI to give us the torque spec, and then it doesn't really check, with the right source, and then it's off by a couple pounds or whatever. And that's been fun. But I think Facebook, Instagram will try to be active, and later this year we're going to be doing more on the YouTube side of things. I think more for educating people on some of the products that we're developing, like weather seals and whatnot, like how to install them and how to make sure they're working appropriately. That's something that we're looking to revamp this year as well.
Cool. I definitely love to see more of that. Well, Luis, at the end, I always give people a chance to give a thanks or a shout out to anybody who's helped get the business where it is. Is there anybody that you would like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Well, I mean, absolutely. Look, Steve, our founder, I think he set up a great platform. I think he's brought a lot of people together. Daniel Sanford, who runs our day-to-day operations, I think he's awesome. I don't think I've heard of any one customer who doesn't love Daniel. I think he's been around for a long time. He's super thoughtful and thorough and just keep us going on a day-to-day. And I'm just grateful for, those folks and people in the community who have over time just reached out and say, hey, if we can be helpful as you guys are continuing to maintain the platform alive, let us know. And we're just grateful for that and the support.
Perfect. Luis, thank you so much for coming on here and telling this story. And, reminding us all why 3SX is a pillar of the 3000 GT stealth community. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much for all the things that you guys do over there, keeping these cars on the road and helping them go fast. I greatly appreciate it, and I know the Mitsubishi community does too.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the time and just chatting. And whenever you're in town, feel free to drop by and say hello. I think that's one of the things that we try to do is tell people, hey, come hang out, say hi, we'll give you a shop shirt or something and show you around some of the things that we're doing. It's always exciting to see people who are enthusiastic like we are about the platform and just showing them what we're doing. It's nice to show off.
I'll definitely take you up on that.
Awesome.
But I won't take up too much of your night, Luis. Thank you so much again, and have a great night.
Thank you. We'll talk soon, and we'll continue to stay in touch.
Absolutely. You got it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.